Is seller financing risky? There are actual dangers in seller financing, and we've seen a lot of them in our relatively short operations. We've been partnered together for about 2 years, and we've already seen a lot. So today we're going to be talking about the risk and dangers of seller financing.
Welcome back to the channel. My name's Cody. This is Christian, and we're talking about the things you need to be cautious of when getting into seller financing. Now, number one, debt adds risk, and seller financing is a debt product. Anytime you borrow money, you set up what's called an obligation, and it is a liability on your balance sheet. Liabilities, so you don't want to just overaccumulate these in relation to the amount of assets that you have. One danger, jumping straight in with seller financing, is there's nobody looking over your shoulder. You don't have an appraiser. You don't have a banker saying you need to look at this debt coverage ratio, you need to have this much reserves, you need to make sure you're not way overpaying for the asset. There's nothing or no one there to actually protect you other than yourself. So you can get a lot of debt relatively quickly in relation to the asset that you're buying. And if you're not good at math, which a lot of people need to work on, then you can over-lever yourself really quickly on short-term variable rate debt because you get what you negotiate, not what is fair.
There's a lot of things that we don't like about bank debt as far as just the overall hassle, some of the rules, the time it takes to actually qualify for a bank loan. That being said, that's one of the great things that banks do. They're designed to not let you buy a deal that won't work because they do not want to take back the asset. So that is a great thing that banks offer. In seller financing, you lose that safety net that Cody's talking about where they have the underwriting department. They have a bunch of boxes they need to check for their safety, which backstops you. In seller financing, if you agree and the seller agrees to something that absolutely is not in your best interest, once you sign it around, it is your obligation. So if you're going to customize your obligations, it's a cool power. You can really get burned. I've seen this happen a bunch of times. One of the biggest ones, a couple of friends recently, who did not fix the cost of their buyout. They have a verbal agreement of, we have a little bit of equity in a deal that we're putting a ton of work in, and every partner told us verbally, the buyout's going to be fine, we'll negotiate it when we get there. I do not foresee that going well. If you have a lot of those, someone will get greedy later on. If you have a successful project, the equity is here, you've done all the work, but they want this huge astronomical buyout because they're entitled to it. You get what you negotiate. You got to be really careful with these terms. The name of the game is fix everything. The timelines, the interest rates, the cost of a buyout, the cost of a balloon payment, everything needs to be fixed in writing in the contract. And I see people blow this all the time.
And number two, real estate is an imperfect market. And the problem with that is people know different levels of information about different assets. You're not going to know as much as the person who owns it. You can never know as much as the person who owns it. Even if you do inspection, people can hide things on a financial level and on an actual physical asset level. This game is emotional because there's people involved. When you're seller financing, you're working with someone who is emotional equally or more so than you are. So you have to remember that when people get emotional, they do things that are irrational, and they can try and slip stuff into contracts that you're not going to see, try and call your notes due if they don't like you 1 year down the road. And that can be a really sticky place to be.
Yeah. The nice thing, again, this is going back to the conventional finance. One of the great things about conventional finance is you're working with an institution. There are a lot of people. Businesses are made of people, but the way that business runs, the banking industry, you have a ton of people. Emotions are diluted. At the end of the day, there's policies in place where, for the most part, business is business. There's not a lot of emotion involved there. With an individual, especially one who's loved for and cared for an asset for a long time, they can get really nervous. They're also usually not professional lenders, typically. And so let's take the Robinhood, for example. Like that's one where the lender actually does like us. I hope if you guys are watching this,
We hope.
we certainly hope so. You guys seem to. But at the end of the day, they are lending $3.5 million.
Telling 23-year-old.
Yeah, of their actual net worth. Like it's out there. They're relying on us to bring that money into them over the course of the next 8 years with interest. We need to see that happen. I can see a universe where you do lend $3.5 million to a 23-year-old and go, you know what? I've had a couple nights where I sat up thinking about that. What if something happens? They can get emotional, and they could, but on any of your seller finance deals, they could decide that they want to be more involved, that they want to do things outside the contract. And I'm not going to get on specific deals, but we have had this happen where lenders decide, hey, I want to change terms and I want to do things to force you guys to change things completely illegally. But it's actual stress where lenders are making threats because they're scared. The fear thing and the human thing is a factor. You need to be on top of it. One of the best things you can do to avoid that particular one, note servicing company.
Absolutely. Leave it up to the professionals so there's no ambiguity, and have that neutral third party in the middle. We do that for all of our deals today. One of the smallest deals we ever bought, we didn't do that, and now that's the one that we have the most problems with.
It happens. You do enough deals with enough people, there will be things that get involved. Have a great team of lawyers, have a great team of, like, there are ways to work around everything. At the end of the day, this is why the contract part is so important. Clear contracts, all legal teams agree, fixed rates, fixed timelines, you can get through these. But what note servicing does, and we're adding this as one of our rules of real estate, but what we really want to do is have everything in a third party who interprets it so that nothing can be misinterpreted as we go down the line. That's where things really get off. If expectations are missed or someone understands something incorrectly and it's just you working directly with the seller, you do not want to go to war with the lender on the property. They are a member of the team. They're not legally a partner, but really they're a major party to the transaction.
Yeah, they're a financial party.
Exactly. And so as you're going through this, you really want to make sure it's in their best interest and your best interest to put it in a third party to try to pull out as much of the emotion as possible.
And one more point on that, make sure you work with people you trust, but have contracts so you don't have to trust them. Because when push comes to shove, you don't want to have to trust them because they can get emotional.
Yeah.
We're going to make one point on the seller front, risks of seller financing. If the buyer completely trashes the asset, you're taking it back. That is the collateral, because typically seller finance notes are non-recourse. Now you can structure it with a personal guarantee, but more often than not, it is just they take back the asset. So you have to make sure you're working with an operator if you're looking at seller financing to anybody that has a general understanding of the day-to-day operations of the asset. Don't let a person who does single family just jump straight into your 100-unit complex. They should be able to demonstrate some level of understanding of how that's going to run. Otherwise, you're taking back a worse asset than you sold.
Now, here's a challenge, though, and this happens when you're starting. When you started on your first deal, you've done a great job on that asset. The argument could be made that you didn't have the experience or the track record when you got started at 19 years old to run a 12-unit building.
However, I worked under a property management company. I worked in a real estate brokerage and around investor clients of other agents in the office.
Exactly. So when you're doing this, if you're watching our channel and going, hey, I'm 18, I'm 19, heck, I'm 35, but I don't know anything about running a property. Make sure that you get the education and the training where you know that you can operate this property and you can communicate to others, hey, I have a real game plan and I'm not going to mess this up. If you do not have that experience or that network yet, build the network first. That could be a place where you do bring on a partner who has more experience, or you actually tailor, like you did, tailor your job and your career towards building the ability to run that asset. If you're just getting into this, don't think, hey, I can just sign for debt and I'll figure it out later. That is not how you play this game.
This is not all sunshine and rainbows, and we made this video to illustrate that, but there is a lot of sunshine and rainbows in this game, and if you're curious about those ones, make sure to check out our other videos because we do talk about it a lot. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all on fire, but we appreciate the support, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Now, if there's one YouTube channel that you watch to learn creative finance, multifamily investing, I'm going to recommend Cody and Christian.
Multifamily Strategy.